Well, good morning. Welcome to the post show. I am Pastor Steve. I never say that. I'm one of the pastors here on staff, but I never introduce myself as Pastor Steve. I'm just Steve.
I call you pre-show dad.
Pre-show dad.
Post-show.
I love that.
I call you Dad.
You just call me regular dad.
Yeah.
I call him Steve.
Steve. But I feel like, we try to at least have one of the pastors here on staff as a representative on our post show as we navigate through what we just experienced in our service. And we're excited that you guys are joining us. And we would encourage you to continue to chat with us. Layla is here. She's got the chat open. If you guys have questions or comments, throw them in our live chat right now.
Chit chat away.
Yeah, and we would love to interact with you in real time. That would be pretty cool. But we're excited about what's happening. We're excited that Josh is out today. He's with the students.
We're excited that Josh is gone.
Let me tell you why.
So great.
It's because Josh is doing exactly what we hired him to do. He's taking these kids.
That was
I know. We're just always excited when Josh is not here.
That was the context we needed.
But he's with our kids at the winter retreat this weekend, so hopefully they're staying warm and having fun.
Yeah, I'm starting to get a bunch of videos and pictures to then post because I was actually watching Josh's dog. And yeah, I'm not a dog person, but I'm people's dog sitter. So
You must be
I'm
doing
becoming
something right.
a dog person, I
Yeah.
fear. So, Anywho, I keep getting these videos because they keep doing the polar plunge. And there's so many, but there's never a video of Josh. And I'm like,
Where's Josh?
Come on,
Like,
buddy.
where's Waldo? Where's
So
Josh?
Yeah.
before we jump into the service and walking through that, have you guys ever done a polar plunge?
No.
Yes.
Well, I don't think so. Maybe we should clarify what the polar.
It's where you break through the ice, and
The
then
ice?
the ice on a lake or a pond or whatever, and then you jump into the freezing water.
Yeah, it's
Nope.
Andy did
pretty
it.
cold.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, so stay tuned. Check our social media this week because you are going to see at least Andy and maybe others jump into the frozen water.
But not Josh.
But not Josh. What a nerd.
What a nerd.
Now, I was wondering how everything was going with the winter retreat because there's not as much snow right now, right? With this weird weather. So at least you can still do the polar plunge.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it'll be exciting to hear a report from Josh when he gets back next week. That'll be cool.
Yes.
So, we just had our experience in there. What was I know. Let me find words to say, right?
We experienced another great message.
From
our Layla.
it's a full experience. Here's the thing: is it's not just the message.
Yeah.
There's worship.
Absolutely.
There's the interactions. There's the communion that we have with people, and so it is like an experience every time we come into this place. So, what was your biggest takeaway from today?
I did. I always love worship. Again, another solid
You say
lineup
that
of
every week.
songs. I know. But sometimes, I don't know, sometimes I'll earmark my favorite lineup of songs and then the next Sunday comes, I'm like, dang, this one's good too. So I just had some favorites. And they were, of course, we sing some of them today. But one of I always, when I take notes, star something, at least one thing, because I have a feeling Josh or Steve will ask me this question. And one of the things that kind of just caught me in my tracks is when Pastor Dave was talking about that we need to see others how God sees them. Again, a lot of times Dave will say something, I'm like, that's so simple, but my mind in those moments will be absolutely blown, and I'm just questioning and myself of I don't do that.
We call those aha moments.
Yeah, but there are also the moments where I'm like, and I want to hide, right? Because I feel like he's looking into my soul and calling me out.
Yeah, you're feeling convicted.
Yeah. Super convicted. So
Yeah.
they're the sweaty moments, I guess.
Those are my favorite moments.
The sweaty ones.
No, just the conviction moments
Yes,
where
absolutely. Yeah.
it's something so simple that you have heard or thought before, but just said in the right context, or you
Yeah.
received it at the right time where it it hit differently, and you're about to implement some really cool change in your life. That's the
Yeah.
coolest.
Yeah. So that was my star moment, but I loved all of today's message. I also really loved Dave's story about, how others saw him and what they benefit from with everything that he had did for them the other church. So
That was my favorite.
yeah, I
part
was
of
like,
the,
don't tear up.
I was crying.
My eyes are starting to sweat.
No, I was
Sweat.
crying in the front row.
Yeah.
As
And
he
you-
was sharing that, because I understand that feeling so greatly, because I've in the past year of my life have been questioning, am I doing what God wants me to
Yeah.
do in all areas of my life? Here, jobs, family, friendships, all of it. And have felt a lot of confusion around that.
Yeah.
And then just God confirms through the people at this church, like, you are doing what you're supposed to be doing, and you're doing what I want you to be doing.
Yeah.
And so he was sharing that, and just, you could tell, like, the impacts that had on him. I just, yeah, my body flooded with emotion, because, like, I understand that, because I'm feeling that right now here.
Yeah, that's
And
cool.
it's really cool.
It can be really hard too to share something like that, because it can feel like
Like boastful almost?
yeah, like, hey, I did this thing, and then people were throwing these praise at me, and
Yeah.
so I know it didn't come from a place of like pride. It came from a place of humiliation, and I think that's the key, right? Is finding those moments where we understand how God is using us, and we see it through the words and the actions of other people.
You could
and
tell,
then,
you could tell, though, with just the way that he shared it today, you could tell there was no, like, prideful intent with it at all.
Exactly.
Yeah, just knowing Dave and his heart.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's pretty neat.
he's a good pastor. We like having him around.
we'll keep him for a little bit, right?
Yeah.
He is getting old.
Just
throwing it
it's
out
not
there.
like we all are. Otherwise, these two are.
I know. Actually, when we sat down, when we were coming in, we sat down and we sat on this side and they sat on that side. I'm like, oh, there's kind of an age
Yep,
gap
there is.
in the middle of this room. But it's good. It's good. I love having the diversity of voices, especially in something like this.
So you're telling me that you selected me for this post show because I'm old? Because I was thinking the opposite up until now.
We're gonna move on. Let's.
I think you're younger than Steve,
Yeah, that's true.
Probably
so you
by
are not the
much.
oldest person here.
That's true. It's
Steve's
all
our
right.
old fart today.
Today. But
I know.
Josh is here.
You know what? It is becoming more and more evident. Every time I go to read something, I have to do this.
Oh,
It's so
Getting
funny.
bad.
I don't have to do that.
And it'll be like this close to his face.
I know.
It'll be like, and I'm like,
I have
dude.
one. Before we move on to the
Yeah,
next
yeah, go.
question, I have one more thing that I really, I don't know about enjoyed, but that
Impacted you?
convicted me was when Dave said, "How do you view the Christians around you?" I'm going to be 100% honest right now.
I know.
There's a lot of Christians out there who don't do it right and judge and are quite hypocritical. Like, will have their own handful of sins, but then bash people for the sins that they're doing. And I find myself in a lot of situations, like, feeling like I need to, what's the word I'm looking for? What's the word I'm looking for? Like, when people, non-Christians, will bash Christians, I feel like I'm constantly having to be like, well, it's not all Christians, and
Oh,
and
yeah.
I'm looking at
Project.
Christians as a whole
Yeah.
as like, oh, most of us suck.
Yeah, there's a defensiveness
Yeah,
to it.
yes, that's
Mechanism,
what I was looking for. My brain is farting. Yeah, but that just convicted me. Like, wow, the mindset I have with Christians is like, oh, they're doing it wrong until they prove me otherwise. Until they prove me that they have the right love for others that God does.
Yeah.
And that's not how I should come at it at all. I should be looking at all Christians as they have this love for Christ and are going to love others that way, and just not come in with that hate and judgment, and only look that way when they prove that to me, right? Like, it just convicted me that I am looking at Christians wrong right now, and it should be flipped.
I feel like I've experienced both, where I've been that person that's the turd, and then I've been on the other side where I've seen other people being turds, right? Because we're human, and I feel like there's some things that we say post show over and over, but we're just not perfect, right? But I absolutely hear where you're coming from and totally get it.
So staying on that, the first question I really have kind of launching into that, has there been a time where your opinion of someone has actually changed once you've seen them in a new way? Like, what has that happened to you, and what has that experience been like?
I mean, I know this has happened. I'm trying to dig in my memory bank of like a specific example, but I think I mean, I know that I'm quick to judge others. One of the things that we went through, which is like a training at work, I went through it like last year, and it was all about like assuming positive intent. And
That has been my biggest quote of the year.
yeah, I was literally in meetings last
Whoa,
week where I was like
dude.
repeating it to myself because I'm like, I'm just so quick to not do that.
Wait, I have that wrote on sticky notes all over
Weird.
my office.
Weird moment.
And assume positive intent. That has
Yeah.
been like my quote of the year.
Yeah. Well, it's, you know, when we were going through this training, though, I'm like, why do we have to learn how to not be like turds? That's my word of the day here, right? Like, we have to go through this formalized training to learn how to like not be a jerk to people. And but I got so much out of it. And then at the end of it, I'm like, man, I am a jerk to people, you know? So it's like owning that, right? And, but yeah, I know there were many times last week and probably on a daily basis where I just don't assume that positive intent. And I think that there's motives and I make up these thought processes and within other people's heads that probably isn't true. Right. And just trying to handle those situations with a pure heart and good intentions. And just like what I said earlier, like see others how God sees them. I just don't do that naturally. I don't know why, right? Like I want to, and I only know to like try to form better habits.
Because in all areas of life, it's easier to focus on the negatives.
Yeah.
What's going wrong, what people are doing wrong,
Yep. Which is
all the bad things that are going on in my life. Oh,
Yeah.
boo-hoo, this is happening, that's happening.
and it's weird for me because I have really high positivity, but I'm pretty sure I have just as high negativity. I just own it, right? Safe space, right? We have a safe, supportive community here.
100%, 100%.
Elizabeth is like, oh gosh, I just stopped talking to Layla.
But yeah, that assume positive intent, I also took out of a training at the car dealership that I work at.
Yeah.
And it hit me in such a powerful way. And I took that into all areas of my life, like with my job there, at my job at the coffee shop. I mean, there are so many mornings where people like come in to get a coffee and treat me like absolute dog crap. And like,
I haven't had their coffee
and
yet.
it's so, it's hard not to take it personally. And that simple sentence was a game changer for me. And so I don't look at people like, oh, you suck and you're a terrible person. It's like, you know what? There could be something so much bigger going on in your life that I have no idea about. Your spouse could be in the hospital dying of cancer. Right. You could have just lost a parent. You could have just been in a car accident. Like there are so many things going on that in people's lives. I mean, there's stuff going on in my life that people don't know about.
Yeah.
And so like, and we get so quick to judge because we interpret things certain ways, right? So like the way that I'm interpreting Layla is different than the way that Steve's interpreting Layla. And so the way that I interpret Layla could be completely different. And I'm like, oh, that thing that she just said, well, that was crappy. When like that wasn't your intention at all. And maybe you were, I just dropped my pen. Maybe like you're going through something that day that I don't know about, you know? So just assuming positive intent and just like being like not taking things as personally and just being like, you know what, I'm going to love them and care for them and treat them with kindness, even if they're not treating me with kindness back. Yep. That is such a power move when you can just like let go and put your pride away and be like, you know what, even if they don't deserve this, they're not treating me the same, I'm going to be the bigger person because that's what Jesus would do.
Yeah. I like that. Power
Boom.
moves.
Yeah.
Lexi's over here doing power moves.
That's right. Well, staying on that
All day
topic,
long, Layla.
though,
Yes.
All day long.
staying on that, maybe we can find some potential steps that we can start to take to seeing people in the way that God does. What are some ways we can actually put this into action? Because sometimes it's real easy to identify the issues or the problems or the places that we need to fix, and then finding those actual physical steps that we can take to start seeing that. Like, how do we start doing that?
I think we answered the question with that last comment, just assuming positive intent and just, yeah, I think that answers that perfectly. Just seeing people as
Yeah.
human.
Yeah.
We all go through stuff, you know?
I absolutely agree with that. And the other thing is just, again, leaning into a lot of what Dave was talking about, but being vulnerable. Like, I don't feel great sitting here and saying, like, yeah, I don't do this very well, and I'm super negative, right? Like, I don't know who's going to watch this, and they're forming their views about me, but again, I'm like a human, and I own it, and I want to do better. So, like, leaning into, one, being vulnerable, and the whole concept today about forming or being a part of a supportive community, and doing my part to help mold that too. But I like have like huge control issues, and I think I can like do everything on my own. Like I'm like I don't need you, God. Like, I got this, right? But like praying, leaning on God, leaning on my friends, my family, you know, to help me be a better person every day. Which again, I'm not going to naturally do. I want to like do my own power moves, right? I don't like leaning on others to help me, but I know it does. I know there are past examples where I have, and even the other thing, the whole backpack analogy that Dave was messaging, which I was thinking of like Dora the Explorer with her backpack. But I'm like, yeah, there's been so many times where I've had people help me carry my backpack, even when I'm like, no, don't touch my backpack, right? There's people in my life that are like, give me that stupid backpack
off your other shoulder.
Yeah.
They're like, you know what, you don't
Right?
want this, but I'm
Yeah.
grabbing that and helping you along the way.
Yeah.
I love
So,
that.
There's so much.
I have two things. First off, the comment you made about like you're being vulnerable and sharing the not great parts about yourself.
Yeah.
Honestly, that speaks volumes about who you are as a person, Layla. And like I the people that I am like, that's a good person right there, are the people in life that just tear down their pride and just own the crap that we do, because we're all human and we all mess up. Yep. And when you can own that, like, you instantly have so much respect for me. So I just want you to know that like
You appreciate me being a crappy person?
I appreciate you sharing
Having a moment.
hard stuff,
Thank
especially
you.
on a
Yeah.
platform where like
Yeah.
multiple people could be watching you.
Right.
Because I madly respect that, and all people should be doing that, because that's how we unite together, and we build relationships, and we learn and we grow from that stuff.
Yeah. Lexy and I, we're like taking over the whole show today. But
No, that's
when you
okay.
said that, it makes me think of that's what I feel in this church. Is that I feel like there are a lot of other people who would stand up and say the same thing of like, I'm kind of a crappy person too.
And
right? And
yeah, but that's
helps.
what we need to hear, and that's.
Yeah.
Yeah, you are human, so of course you're gonna have that stuff. So when you try and pretend like it's not there,
Right.
I'm like, what? Why are you doing that? You're
Yeah.
you're honestly trying to act like God, like you have it all together, and I do all these things right. Okay, yeah, you might be doing some things right, but you're not doing all things right. And you could be the best person on the planet that has everything together. You are still a flawed, messed up human.
Yeah.
Like, you can't tell me you have it all together. You can't sit on this high horse. No, like, humble yourself. Get off there.
And that's part of one of the reasons we've been pushing small groups. That's the whole,
Yes.
that was really the focus of the end of today, is this idea that we do have to have this community, this small group of community where we can be real, we can unload. We need help. Kind of carrying that and going to that kind of burden backpack analogy, Dave.
Hold up. I have an answer for the last question before you move on.
Okay.
This was the second thing I wanted to say. Ways that we can start seeing people the way that God sees us. I mean, we've talked about this in past sermons and past post shows, like how God views you. Yes, like you have your sins, you have your burdens, but God still sees the good in you. And so when we know that that's what God does to us, it should be so easy for us to start doing that to other people, because that's how you're getting treated by your heavenly Father. So looking at people like, yeah, they might have this or that I don't like, they might do this that I don't like, but knowing that does not define them. That is not everything about them. And yes, you can equal parts have good things and bad things about yourself. And it's so easy for us to just focus on those negative things. Like, oh, somebody could be like, yeah, this person's great. And then you instantly are like, yeah, but they do this, they do that. They said this and I didn't like that. It's so easy for us to like rebuke, what's the word? Rebuttal? You guys, my brain is like kind of with it today, but not really. But yeah, it's so easy for us to like put in our 2 cents in a negative way.
Yep.
When like if you focus on those positives, like it becomes so much easier to forgive people and to just let go of sins and hard things and messy things when we just focus on those positives in people.
Absolutely.
Because that's how we want other people to view ourselves, and we
Absolutely.
hope, and we know that's how God views us, and so trying to have that mindset is a challenge, but it's one that we need to continually try to strive after.
Right, but the more you do it, the easier it gets.
Yeah.
Just repetition.
Yeah. And so real quickly, going into this, that backpack thing that you were talking about, Dave had brought up Galatians 6 in verses 2 and 5. And the first one, it was like, carry each other's burdens. And then the other one was, each one should carry their own load. And then he was explaining the difference between, well, the burden is something that you need help with.
Yeah.
And that you require assistance, and that your load is like your backpack, something you have to carry. Was there a time in your life where your burden was so heavy and you received help? And then what did you learn from that experience?
Yeah.
I think I'm kind of in the middle of that right now. But I'm fighting against the help because I don't know.
It's hard.
It's hard to let yourself accept the help when, like, in the past you were fine or you felt like you were fine.
Yep.
And so it's kind of
Like you didn't need that extra help in the past, so why should you need it now?
because it feels more like, oh, well, I'm just more broken now. Like, I can't help myself.
Yeah. It's
When, like,
exposing that vulnerability.
I'm not supposed to help myself,
Yeah.
but I feel like, I don't know. It's hard sometimes to accept the help. And that's a normal feeling, but it's something that, like, clearly we're not supposed to be doing all alone.
Yep.
Asking for help can be humiliating too.
Yeah.
It can feel
Yes,
humiliating.
like it's that pride. Like I don't want to ask for help. I don't want people to think that I'm weak or I'm incapable of doing something because I'm asking for help. When, I mean, I know one of my biggest sins that I struggle with is my pride, and that's something that in the past I've had a hard time. I mean, I still do. If I'm like carrying something heavy and a dude comes up to me that I work with and is like, "Let me do that for you," you better believe I'm gonna be like, "No, don't you dare touch." Like if I'm bringing a ladder in to decorate a tree or I'm hanging up crap, I'm like, "No, don't touch this ladder. I've got this." Like I don't want your help.
Even if it's coming from a place of, I just want to help you. Like,
Yes, like
Yeah.
there's times when it's so hard to ask for help when all those people are doing is it's most of the time. I'm not going to say never, but I mean if it's people in this church, they're not doing it from a place of, oh, you're weak and we need to do stuff for you. It's coming from a place of, I mean, like everybody goes through crap. Like we all have had low points in our lives, and we understand that feeling, and we just want to be there for you because that's what God would be doing too.
Yeah.
Is loving and caring and helping people, so.
Yeah. And I feel like God is positioning people to help you and all of us in those times of needs. And I'm kind of, again, having more convicting moments of like hearing God tell me right now, like, how dare you challenge me putting the people in your lives to help you, right? Right? Like when I think about things differently from God's perspective, it's like extremely, extremely humbling.
Yeah.
But I absolutely, like I said earlier, I 100% get it. And the only thing I can tell you personally, just again from my own experiences, is like, don't think, just use that love, because there's so many people I know that would absolutely want to help carry your backpack. But one of the experiences that has been probably the hardest of my life is, and I've talked about this I think a little bit, I'll keep it very high level because I don't want to cry, but when my sister took her life in 2003, I mean, I wasn't preparing for anything like that. I knew very little about suicide in general. I knew it was a thing, but when you go through it, I just needed people to like take me in. I needed people to just like let me come to their house and sit there like numb and just be with me. And like looking back on that, I didn't realize that they were helping me with my backpack. But even like Dave said, you need people to help like organize your backpack and understand what needs to be removed from your backpack. So I had teachers letting me like not take tests. I I failed like a states and capital test. Like I still don't think I know all my states and capitals, but like, you know, that was an item that they took out of my backpack for me during that time. Probably bad because I still don't know my states and capitals, so I probably need to still do that. But
This is a perfect example.
know?
I'm so glad that you were
Like-
sharing this right now.
that was a
is-
huge,
yeah.
huge boulder, and it's one that anybody going through that you just can't do it alone.
Yeah.
Like losing somebody, but losing somebody to suicide is like it's a boulder that never goes away, and you can't figure out the boulder and like why it came. And it's something I will carry with me forever. And I have moments where I need people to help me continue. Check my backpack, right? And that's my experience, and I'm still just so thankful for. I mean, especially that day. When I think back on that day and all the different people that came in and out, like of them throughout the moments, it was just tremendous.
Yeah.
They're beautiful. They're my angels, and I still have those. You know. Sorry, it got super
No,
real.
no,
but
that-
Thank you for sharing
that's
that.
Yeah.
that's my boulder. And there's many, right?
Yeah.
Big boulders.
And there's a lot of
Oh, there's yeah.
there's a lot of people in this church that have experiences like that, that can help walk with people who are going through the same things, and it's about that community. And this is part of the whole intent of why we're doing this sermon series. Is it seems like in modern day Christianity we have taken this idea of our faith or our journey with Christ, and we've individualized it. It has become us and us alone.
Yeah.
And the church is there, which is great. We can go to church, but it's still it's me. It's me. It's me. It's my journey. It's my faith. It's my walk. It becomes very individualized, and we've forgotten that we collectively are the bride of Christ.
Yep.
We are the church. And so trying to get us back into this sense of community where we can walk with people, we can usher people through these parts, these difficult things that they're going through. That's the whole hope that we have. But my final question, because I think this is one that's really important, I would love to get your opinion, because as a staff member, we see things through a very particular lens. But as church attenders, as volunteers, as people who have a different viewpoint, what changes do we need to make right here at Connections to make sure that we are a church who make people feel safe? Dave had a story about a gentleman who visited a church, and his phone went off and got all sorts of judgment placed upon him, then went to the bar, broke a bottle of beer. They accepted, they forgave it. It's not a big deal.
Isn't that wild?
You know.
Yeah, and I know that whether that's a real story or a fictitious story, I'm not sure, but it's a story that has truth in it. And we can get very comfortable here with the people that are coming, with the people who are here. We can have expectations and certain I won't say rules, but really guidelines of how we expect the mornings here to go, and we put a lot of work and energy, and if that gets thrown off, so from a non-staff perspective, what changes do we need to make?
I think it kind of, I don't know, as like a grander scale church, but I think it all needs to start where it needs to start with a more personal choice to go out of your way to be like, oh, these are the people I usually talk to. I will still talk to them because they are my people. I love them.
Yep. Yeah.
But there's so many people that walk in and out of these doors that probably don't have those people.
Yep.
And so going to be that person, or just even saying good morning, or I don't know, I feel like it needs to start with a personal choice of going out of your way to see those people.
Yep.
It's such a simple thing to conceptualize,
Yeah.
sometimes hard to do.
Absolutely.
Just saying hi to people, and saying hi to the people you don't see, because for a lot of people these are their people, and so when you see somebody you want to go and spend time with them.
Right, and then here's the thing though, it can look so cliquey to new people coming in.
Yeah.
Oh, they already have their people. I'm not a part of that. So yeah, breaking that and just going out of your way to initiate with new people, because if you are, talking to 5 to 10 people in the church lobby, you look a lot more intimidating for a new person to walk in up to this group rather than one person going up to a new person or a new family or whatever,
And it's a hard thing to do. It's a hard thing to remember to do. But I think that's kind of where it needs to start, because because I'm not new. I don't know what it looks like to come into this place new anymore. So, I don't know.
Yeah, I love that.
That's a good
great one.
reminder, because that really, it starts from the top down. It starts from the leadership showing that that's how we're going to be the example for people, and encouraging our top volunteers, and then that will trickle down. So if we can be a people who, when you walk in, if they feel welcomed and they feel like there's more than just the guy at the door greeting them,
Right.
that can be huge.
Yeah.
Yeah, because maybe they're having a bad morning. They just want someone to say hi and give them coffee.
Yeah.
Starts there.
I love that reminder. It's something I know I want to lean into, because I do remember coming here and feeling that a little bit, just
At the beginning, absolutely.
again, it's natural to have, the pockets of circles of people talking to each other.
Yeah.
They already have those formed relationships. But I will say, in addition to that, so I think us as, long-term members who have already have those established connections, we need to definitely lean into what you recommended, Elizabeth. But then I think people who are new, also need to just be vulnerable and go up and talk to somebody that you haven't talked to before too. I think there's responsibility and opportunities on both ends to lean into that. And I think it goes well with joining a small group, especially if you've never done it before. I also was like, this is weird. I don't know how I feel about this.
I do agree with that it does take, both
like a
sides
dance.
to do stuff.
Yeah.
But I think the people that have been here longer do have a
yes.
much higher responsibility, because you are comfortable in this place. This
Yep.
is your home. These are your people.
Yep.
So you should feel comfortable enough to go up to somebody new and
Yeah.
just spark a simple conversation.
Yep.
Have a couple questions in your toolbox for what are things other than hello, how's your morning? What's your name? Have a couple questions. This is what I'm going to do moving forward. Have 5 questions that are just in my head, ready to go, so that when I meet somebody new, I can instantly be like, hey, what's this? Ba-ba-da-ba-da-ba-da.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But sometimes I think there's people who are, even if you talk to them, they're going to be like, oh my gosh, how quickly can I get out of this conversation?
Right.
That would be me too.
So
early on.
having different types of questions,
Yeah.
simple, easy answer questions where people don't, and you have to read people too. If they're like, I don't really want to have a conversation, read that and just ask a couple simple questions. Be like, it was really nice to meet you. My name is Lexy, and I'll be around if you have any questions or yada yada.
Yeah.
But then if you, it's all about reading people. If you can tell that they're craving interaction and friendships, then that's where your last 3 questions that are a little more
Meteor.
yes.
Yeah.
Those come into play.
Try to find them again
Yeah.
next
Remember
Sunday.
them. Yeah.
Because, someone remembering your name out of, a random group of people, it can be such a huge, oh,
Yep.
Wow,
someone remembers
they
me, I
remember
matter here.
Yeah.
I'm,
Yet the challenge I have is I'll ask some of their name,
And
and
then
then they
instantly
say
forget
it.
I know.
As soon as they
Oh,
say
yeah.
it, I didn't hear it. And
Yeah.
then if you ask again, then you just
Yeah.
I have to
Even
put
if-
a thing with a person.
Yeah.
So let's say I'm meeting you for the first time. I'm like, oh, hi, what's your name?
Steve.
Steve. I would instantly in my brain be like, Steve like soup, Steve. And then every time I would look at you, I would have to put something that maybe it doesn't even actually relate to you. But in my brain,
Yeah.
little things like that will help
Yeah.
me remember names.
Yeah,
'Cause
those
I
little
also
tricks.
suck at names.
And even
But
if you
that's-
forget, just go say hi.
Yeah.
Good morning. Make
I
it a
like
point to go back and find them.
if you a familiar, just being like, hey, I remember you. We talked about, and you remember something you talked about. Be like, we
Yeah.
talked about this, but I cannot remember your name. Please
Yeah.
remand me your name. Honestly, that's
it's
fine
not
by
that
me.
big a
That's
deal.
fine by
Yeah.
me if you don't remember my name, because I probably don't remember your name either. In all truthfulness, just the fact that you remembered a face or remembered a certain thing about them speaks volumes, even
Yeah.
if you can't remember their name.
Well, good. I know that there's probably more changes that as a church we can make to continue to make this place an accepting place, some place where people feel welcomed, they feel accepted, they feel like there's opportunities for them to connect and grow and find those real, true friendships. I hope we continue. I hope we never get satisfied for where we are. That we are always looking to change and to adapt and grow.
I have another thing
Okay, go for it.
to add to this. For those who've been here a long time and are deeply rooted in faith and have a solid relationship with Christ, my challenge for those people versus like the newer people would be, oftentimes we go into things with like our own ideas and thoughts and opinions, and when people get vulnerable and share things, we can so often hop to a place of judgment. Like, you're a Christian, you've been a Christian for this long, you know better, and you still did this. Like, there's got to be a chain breaker of that, of the like, and it's a fence that I want to like hop both sides, because yes, there's one side where it's like, you are a Christian, we hold each other to a higher standard, but at the same time we have to understand that there's no way that any of us can be perfect, and like that place of judgment first can be so hard on people, because there are times I feel judged by people in this church over certain things that I've done, and it makes it hard to want to continue sharing and being vulnerable and open when you try and be like, hey, this is what I've struggled with, or this is something that I'm currently struggling with. Like, I keep making this mistake, and I don't want somebody to be like, well, shame on you, you suck. I want somebody to hear me and love me and be like, you know what? Because if I was to say something maybe here versus a group of my non-Christian friends, I'm not gonna lie, like, they would make me feel like it's okay, you know, we all have stuff that we struggle with, versus here I feel like I would be judged by certain things, when that's not how it should be at all.
No, and that's obviously our goal as a church. We've created values for us as an institution, ones that we're trying to live by, one that we try to apply through everything that we do. And our first two values are compassion and acceptance, and trying to lean into those. And I know we did a whole series through that this past year, and that would be a good thing for us to go back to, maybe even rewatch some of those messages that we have on our values. So I would encourage you guys at home, go back through our YouTube archive, find those messages on our core values. That would be a great place for us to start as we look to trying to find more ways to better ourselves, to be more compassionate, more accepting, and be the people that we are called to be, to make our church a place where the community really is the body of Christ.
Yeah.
And try to not let your pride get in the way of that. Being like, oh, it's so easy to judge, or it's so easy to like hide yourself if you feel like you're going to be judged, but just pray about it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, this has been good. I know we could probably talk for much longer. It's been a really good post show, and we're going to wrap things up. But here at Connections, we love it when you guys submit questions. In fact, every Wednesday we go live with our Q&A with Dave and Josh, and they answer the questions that you guys have. So if you have questions about our church, maybe it's about something you heard in the message, especially if it's something you heard in the message or something that you've heard in previous messages, we would love to answer your questions for you. So go to my3c.org, click the Ask the Question tab, fill out your question. Everything that's submitted is anonymous. We have no idea who's submitting what, so there's no shame or embarrassment about asking a question. We would love for you to ask them. So thank you for joining us this morning. We're going to wrap things up, and we will catch you next Sunday at the same time.
Bye, guys.